What's up, family?
Radio.
Coming. Around my wrist and dig into a deep sound of best unit in the stack. The beast never found an experience like Hendrix. Keep my sound rich, cats ask about my stitch. To me they sounded and my sound's a glitch of hatred. A cat who ain't make it, I'ma give it as far as you can take it. Try to take the safe way, told you there's the gateway to skinny. Many can find it if you can climb it. I'm open-minded like a pothead, doing what I gotta do to keep the spot fair. In the climate of locked bread, cornrows, torn souls, warm up. Who've been molested by their uncle. I bundle amongst you cold mother uckers. The world is bitter like baby mothers. Look how far Eldorados and wine bottles drug us. Least God and the sun lovers. It's the sun god. Try not to say shoot around my daughter, she already know the blast. Catching the future, don't know who's through the past. It's the snake and the hidden dragon. This fake like dragon, listen to the ocean and the stars. Keep my vision in motion like cars. I'm down to earth, at times I feel closer to Mars. The world is yours, I'm hoping it's ours. So say the God is crazy. I see God in our baby, child of the sun. I allowed it to raise me from a distance. Try to embrace me. I'm hard to read like graffiti so it don't face me. My days be spent behind dreams sent through the sun, the divine being is sent. It's the sun god.
Ethiopia will call out the name of God, and princes shall come out of Egypt. What's up, family? Meaning be at peace. This is Rosner Maramoon, head minister of the African Orthodox faith of the Amani of Enderase. Amen. This is a pilot episode. It's going to be short. It's only going to be about 30 minutes long. It's going to allow me to learn Blog Talk Radio and hopefully work out the kinks. In the last 10 or 15 minutes of the show, we will have callers. That call-in number is 424-222-5376. Once again, it's 424-222-5376. You can also call that number and listen to the show. And when you're ready to ask a question or make a statement, press 1, and it will let you into the call queue. For those of you who aren't familiar with Enderase, Enderase is an African Orthodox faith that is established in Nile Valley literature, and is, an amalgamation or a grouping of a lot of different African philosophies that help define or coalesce the philosophy of Ma'at, and Ma'at being universal order or harmony. And so I guess a better way of looking at that is having a lot of the traditional Nile Valley culture, more specifically what is currently Ethiopian, and some of the language and the terms, and then looking at people like the Bambara with the Como, the Dogon, and different other ethnic groups that have connections back to the Nile Valley and that have been able to maintain a lot of the traditions that the Nile Valley had, and be able to bring those into modern practice. And not only from a spiritual religious standpoint, but from a standpoint of practicality. So bringing those together and those traditions that are unique in Africa, but unfortunately things that we have lost here in the Western Hemisphere as a result of the Ma'afa and our sojourn and the European territories. So just wanted to kind of give you an idea of that. was established in Atlanta about 2 years ago. And, I hate to use the term established. I would say it was restored because the information has always been there. It's something that I went and sought out, having been a Christian, and feeling that I had grown beyond that teaching or that indoctrination of a sort, and looking for faith that reflected me, as a human being, as a man, and definitely as a person of African descent. But I had found out that there are 4 parts to religion. You have the spiritual aspect of a religion, the cultural aspect of the religion, the financial or economic aspect of a religion, which is just how do you see creation, and how do you use the resources that are given to you by creation, and as well as the practice of it. So how do you practice either the literature or the cultural norms of that religion? And so all of those things, those 4 parts make up a religion. So to kind of put that in brief, Christianity is predominantly developed in Rome with Canaanite influences, but the true practice of Christianity, or the Western form of it, would really be being a Roman, since that's when it was initially constructed and set up, and a lot of traditions that are practiced there are of the Roman period, as well as if you're a Hindu and you're practicing the Hare Krishna or something of that faith, and you would have to adhere to Indian practices. There's just no way around that if you want to be a good Hindu. You could be somebody that is Japanese or from Russia or from Paraguay, and if you want to take on Hinduism, you would have to take on many aspects of Indian culture, as well as being Arabic. If you really want to become a good Muslim, then you have to learn Arabic, and you have to be able to read the Quran in Arabic. And so in doing that, and then, of course, taking your pilgrimage to Mecca. So in doing that, those are a lot of practices that were indigenous and original to Arab people. So myself, not seeing that fit me, and not seeing those cultures fit me, I opted to find something that reflected who I was, and led me to a closer understanding of where my ancestors came from. My ancestors being of African descent, even though we can be called African Americans or Jamaicans or Haitians or Brazilians or whatever area that you want to say that you take the people that were taken from the continent of Africa, we all come back to Africa. And so we all share that common ancestry and that common focus. The same way any European would be able to pull his ancestry back to Europe, and he shares and practices that common culture and that common focus. Although his practice and religion and ideology and culture and sense of economics were layered onto us, and those weren't the things that we initially brought in. And so for me, I wanted to kind of go back and discover, well, what does it mean to be an African person from an African mind? And I suspected that would be more in the spiritual. I could find that more in the spiritual elements. And oddly enough, reading the somewhat of the Bible and the Quran and the history of the books of the 2 and 3 major religions, also Judaism, I was able to start tracking back the origin and influences of a lot of that information. And it brought me to the Nile Valley that's done many people. And researching the Nile Valley, specifically a lot of the, I don't know if the term lost scriptures, but not widely known scriptures, and seeing a lot of parallels and with modern-day Judeo-Christian religion as well as other faiths, but trying to stick with more things that people are more familiar with. And pulling those back and seeing how those things helped develop the Nile Valley and made them great. And I'm not just speaking about Egypt, but I'm from Egypt to the Sudan to Ethiopia and far in between. And there was something there there was something that was, so strong and so profound and so well developed that it allowed for civilization to last for over 15,000 years and then allow itself to be recreated from Kemet to Kush to Axum to Demet to Meroe and on, and then have great influences beyond its borders into what is present-day the Fertile Crescent or the land of Canaan, and the Greeks and the Persians and so on and so forth. And then coming back into West Africa and, being seen in the Bambara, the Dogon especially, and Yoruba and people of those areas. So it never died out, but it kind of changed and I guess adapted to the environments that it was found itself in. And so I kind of wanted to research more of the pure form of it. And, I took on the aspect of a figure in history called Imhotep. Imhotep was the first polymath. Polymath being somebody that is someone with made a lot of degrees. So I think at the time they said Imhotep would have been equivalent to somebody with 15 doctorates. He was a builder. He was a doctor. He was an educator. He was, the first, doctor of medicine, a father of medicine. I mean, if you named it, he did it. And he was a vizier to a pharaoh, or what is more accurately called a Nesu dozier. And I think that really defined what it was to have a Kemetic mind, was to not only be somebody who sought a higher spiritual development, but was a builder, was a mover, was a shaker, was a practicer. I think a lot of times in what we call the conscious community, we search more for the spiritual elements, but we forget we're on earth for a reason. And our ancestors were always great builders, but builders in harmony in nature. And, great educators, great explorers, great traders, business people, if you will. And, we did a lot of great things in the physical life. So those things would follow us into our next life. Meaning that we didn't look at creation, this process of what some people call life and death, as being something that just ended. You were born and then you die and you go to heaven or hell, or what we're traditionally taught. We saw this as being a classroom. And so the deeds that you achieved in this life followed you into the next. So if you were more of a negative person and practiced negative things in your life, then that might have an impact that would keep you having to repeat this lesson again, or could put you further back and diminish you, and even to the point of maybe reappearing as a wild beast or something of that nature. Because the goal was to elevate yourself into Orisa, or as in the Yoruba phrase Orisha, which might be described as an honored ancestor, and then which would come back and help the people here, not directly but indirectly. Very similar to a Catholic's thought of a saint, if you will, and that sort of thing. Initially, Kemet was monotheistic from our current understanding of that. There was only one creator, one God named Amen, and that was understood, that was perceived, and there was different divisions or different aspects, if you will, or powers, but it was still the same person. And so there's a misconception that they were polytheistic, which is more of a prejudice and an ignorance brought about in the early 19th century. But we did fall to producing, I guess what you might consider to be deities or false gods as a result of economic persuasion and political maneuvering and powering and that sort of thing. And so as a result of that, a lot of the faith started, and the meaning of the faith started to get diluted. And thank God certain people were deciding to leave because they wanted to keep the purity. And we believe people like the Dogon were those people and moved out and were able to kind of keep the truer aspects of the worship of Amen as the creator, as well as Ma'at, which is a system of harmony, very much like Dharma or the Laozi and the Tao, being able to balance and live your life in a system of harmony, but also being builders and being fiercely independent. The Dogon, what a lot of people might have heard of them or not, but they know them for astrological studies and ancient knowledge. But they were also fierce warriors and great builders. When Islam was coming into West Africa, they opposed the conversion of it, and as a result of that, moved to areas where they could not be converted. And so they were able to maintain a lot of that ancient philosophy and without mixing it in with other faiths and philosophies of the time. And so you can take the Dogon and different people like that and see a modern or more realistic practice of it in addition to what you might learn in school books and scholastic studies and things of that nature, and be able to kind of extrapolate what the true essence would have been. And that's the work. That's what I've tried to do, and that's what the people that I teach, because Rasta Amir is a title. It means head instructor. It's an Amharic term. We don't look at ourselves as ministers in the Western sense because we only see Amen as holy. We see each other in very much of the same aspects of teacher and student, which is outlined in our holy text called the Enderase, Tahuti being the power of knowledge and wisdom from Amen are manifested in this image of Tahuti, and Imhotep being the student. So we're always having the student-teacher dichotomy, and because we wish to know, we wish to learn, we wish to educate ourselves so we don't fall upon ignorance, emotions, and misunderstandings, and be able to look at something and reason it. Your emotions are important, but your emotions need to be governed with reason. And so these are the things that this faith and this philosophy pushes us to, so we can start to develop that culture further that was stolen from us. It has been prophesized, especially with the Bambara and also within the three religions of Judeo-Christian religions, of a group of people that were taken out beyond the river, and that these things would happen, these things that we see in slavery, that they were to come to pass, that they were, destined. And this prophecy and this knowledge is very old. It's nothing new. I believe it was misinterpreted by some, but if you do the research and the study, you will find that many people in Africa, before the great export of people, many wise sages knew that such an event would occur because of the division that was going in Africa at the times. And these people that had this knowledge were, today we look at them and we say, well, they soothsayers and this sort of thing. And no, I'd rather describe them like actuaries. Actuary is a person who works for an insurance company. And based on a specific amount of data, they can guess how long you're going to live within a 5% failure rate. So within 5 years, they can guess if you're going to be 7 years old, 75 years old, or 80 years old, based on your family history, your habits, and information of that nature. And they're very accurate. That's how insurance companies make money, because they know how much to basically bet on you, and when they're going to get their return back before you expire. And so you might think of these people who had these ancient sciences and knowledges in the same sense, but they were far superior. These are the same people who would have had influences and taught the Maya in some degree, very similar to people in India, and in Asia. Some of these sciences were known as well. And the process of these sciences were basically mathematical equations, very similar to the I Ching and things of that nature, that could, I guess the proper term would be to estimate the percentages of certain certain occurrences, if you will. And so a lot of this was spoken about in folklore, but unfortunately, because we were here and cut off, we were not aware of that, and most of us don't know where to look for this information. So get back to the point that I'm making here is that I believe that we were sent here, and I know that we were sent here to rediscover these things, to rediscover what was lost. Sometimes you have to leave your house, go to the movie, go to the store, go somewhere, and then come back to find that thing you lost. If you're looking for some money, if you're looking for your wallet or phone or whatever the case may be, you have to leave and get a fresh perspective and then come back, and then you'll look at your environment differently. And I know that is a great part of the reason why we're here. And not only that, but there was a great bit of division and a great bit of greed that was going on in Africa that blinded us and did not allow us to see the way things were going as a people. Part of that is because of the encroaching of the Sahara Desert, and the other part of that was people not really believing or reinterpreting or rediscovering what was their own, and going toward other faiths and ideologies, more specifically for their economic advantage, for their trade advantage, and sometimes for their military advantage. So thinking very short-sighted, and that's something that we still do today. We still, I guess, reduce ourselves in certain ways for short-term advance, and in the long term, the person that we've allied with tends to be the benefactor of that arrangement. And sometimes we don't forget an ally is just that. They're somebody that you engage in something with for a particular purpose, but it doesn't necessarily mean that they're your friend. And so allies tend to shift, especially in times of war, but, in other things that we compete with. And so because a lot of us aren't aware of that, we still stick and hold on to things that make us the lesser group or the person that has the least amount of influence in that relationship, because we have seen that it's time to either switch allies or improve our own standing. And so these are the things that if you study the Enderase, which is a codex of many of the ancient scriptures and the writings of the kings, it shows you this thinking. It challenges you to see the world in this way, and it challenges you to improve the world through ma'at, through harmony and knowledge, and not to allow yourself to become enslaved or not allow yourself to become delusioned, and really not allow yourself to become complacent and just accept society as the way it is. We're African people are the first people. We taught pretty much everybody at one point in time or another, and this isn't just black nationalism for the sake of saying that. This is a historical fact. If you look at anybody's history, you will see the genesis of it in some way, form, or fashion and influence of us. And even though history is lied and distorted, if you want to search hard enough and look hard enough, you will see our influence in North America before Columbus, or Central America before Columbus, in Asia, and what's currently called the Middle East, and as well as in Europe, outside of just the spectrum of Africa, as far as Australia as well. And but you have to have a heart to discover these things, to see the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I think when you see this, you'll understand that you come from a rich culture, a rich heritage, and people that are just ready to get their second wind. Sometimes the root goes so deep and the tree comes up and it looks like it's getting so far away from the root, but the seeds are still elements of the root. So, when the fruit falls back down to the earth and the seeds take root into the ground, it's still elements of that original root. And I believe that's what we are. I believe we're seeds that were cast all, on many shores on many sides, but we still have that element of who we are. And I believe that's a good root. It's a root that has been able to maintain itself over time, for better part of 300,000 years or more. And, I think that gives me strength and it gives me focus. And that's not to demean anybody else's race, culture, faith, or religion. But I think everybody takes pride in who they are and where they're from and what their story is. And I see myself, and I think the members of Enderase Amen see themselves as no different than anybody else who would be proud to be Hindu, Taoist, Buddhist, Zoroastrian, or Farsi, or Mayan for that matter. We all have a story to tell, and, people of African descent have a great story, and it's one that we need to pull back to. I think many of us have adapted a very weak philosophy, a very weak personality, and unfortunately we live in a very competitive world where the weak, become victims, and then the victims, become cripples, and then eventually, they become a memory. And I have no intentions on becoming a memory. I have no intentions on becoming what was referred to me in my history class in college some years ago as the noble savage. That when you're dead, they want to pull you out and celebrate you and speak to your nobility. But that's long after you've been defeated or dead. It's something that was practiced quite a lot here in North America after the extermination of the native people that were here. They persecuted them when they were alive, and then when they started to die, obviously they became mascots and objects of honor in some strange way. But I think a lot of us have started the basis of creating that type of philosophy for ourselves, is where, we're the sacrificial people and we're expected to take on these the sins and the ills of the world, and that's our lot in life. And that's nonsense. Our lot in life is to be great. It's to return to greatness. It's to continue being great. It's continue to being a shepherd. It's continue to be an example. And it's continuing to be the children of Amen. We're kissed by the sun. We survive what other people, could never imagine. And so I say this to say that our age has returned, and I want everyone to help me and help us in Enderase Amen. And if you have any questions, just Google Enderase Amen on the Terra Session, and there's a ton of contact information. And I just want to say Hotep, and thank you for joining us. And it's a short show today, but we're going to get this a little bit better. And as we get better at this, we'll have guests and great speakers, and hopefully we'll have some callers, and we can restore Ma'at, and all glory to Amen. Ha'era and Amen. Praise be to Amen. Hotep.
Freedom rhyme a nigga to a deep sound, the best unit in the stack. The beef never found an experience like Hendrix. Keep my sound rich, cats ask about my stitch. To me they sounded, then my sound's glitch hatred. A castaway make it, I'ma give it as far as you can take it. Try to take the safe way, told you there's a gateway to skinny. Many can find it if you can climb it. I'm open-minded like a pothead, doing what I gotta do to keep the spot fed. In the climate of locked bread, cornrows, torn souls, warm up, who've been molested by their uncle. I bundle amongst you cold mother uckers. The world is bitter like baby mothers. Look how far Eldorados and wine bottles drug us. Least God and the sun lover, it's the sun god.